Haha. Alrighty, let's get this guy out of here. What's up, guys? My name is Andy. I've got to replace the floor pans in my 68 F100. I bought this truck knowing that they were rusted and they were gonna have to be replaced. And this is one of the first things that I wanna get done and get out of the way. It's one of those projects where you gotta take the seat out, then we gotta take the flooring cover, whatever this mat thing is, out of here and get everything out of the way and get everything cleaned up so I can cut out the floor pans and install, weld in the new ones. So let's just jump in and start taking everything out of the truck. You know, those seat bolts for this bench seat were a pain. They were just difficult to get out, but I doubt this seat has been removed in several decades, you know, at the earliest. Anyways, yeah, so there is a lot to do. Yeah, there is a big hole in the passenger side, and we've got the same problem on the driver's side. And we can also see that the heater core has been leaking. If we just wipe underneath there, yeah, that's all wet from underneath here. So I bet the heater core is bad, so I need to take that out and do that. But we have got a hole here, and then of course this whole thing. So let's take a look at the driver's side real quick. Yeah, see, we have the same problem with the hole here. Oh man, this thing's just nasty. But it looks like it pretty much stops about here in the same spot on both sides of the cab. So I don't need to replace the whole floor pan piece. I can just cut out what I need, but I will probably go, you know, up to the sides and around here, and we'll come over, and of course we'll have to reattach to this stuff, get all this cleaned up. In fact, that's what I'm gonna do first. I gotta get all this dirt and grime and stuff cleaned out of here so we can see what we're working with. Now that we got everything all cleaned up and all the dirt out of here, we can get a better look at the rust problem that we're dealing with here. So I've got some pretty good sized holes along here, and obviously along this right here. This piece that I'm pushing on is the cab mount. And so this pan goes over the top of that. And what we can do is, this is still pretty good from what I can tell so far, but we can drill out the spot welds that are attaching the floor pan to that, and then we're gonna cut along the edge here all the way around, and then I'm gonna have to patch in a piece right here, I think. But this piece also is pretty good. It's pretty solid. Maybe not so much right there, but I'm gonna clean this up, and then we're gonna lay the new piece on top of this, and we'll just spot weld to that. And then I'm gonna cut somewhere probably along in here, and so I won't need the whole pan. So this is what the full pan looks like. See, and it goes way up inside on the firewall there, and then yeah, I can't even fit it in on the side here because I can't push it up high enough up that way. So what we'll probably do is we'll cut somewhere, you know, kind of along in there, and then weld that in. And then I'll be able to use this stuff maybe as a patch piece for back here that I got to cut out, because I won't need this whole thing, and I also won't need this whole edge. I think the best thing to do is get all these spot welds drilled out, and then I'm going to cut along maybe run a piece of tape so I can get a nice straight line. Although it won't matter, because what I want to do is take this out and I'm going to lay this piece on top of this and trace what I'm cutting out, and then I'm going to have a little bit of a gap. And I'm thinking the way that I'm going to do this is I'll lay this piece, this edge over the top, and then I'll take a cutoff wheel and slice the edge, and then tack a little bit, slice a little bit more, and tack, so that I'll have the edge that I cut matches the top of this piece evenly. There's lots of different ways you can do this. Cutting this thing out is not terribly difficult, but what I don't want to do is cut too much of this out, and then when I trim this piece to fit, I cut too much of this, so it's actually too small to fit in the hole. So by having kind of an inch wide gap or something like that along here that I can cut off with a cutoff wheel as I go around and tack, that little piece will fall off the back. I can pull it out from underneath the truck, and then it'll be a perfect fit as I go along and fit this in here. And cutting along in here, it's gonna be a little tricky because of the way this piece folds over and stuff. I wanna make sure I get that right. Because this piece doesn't quite do that. So I may have to, as I come around here and cut, I might have to cut really close to this corner, because this piece, it's kind of hard to tell, but there's a slope here. This is flat up top where the seat bolts to, and then it slopes down, and that piece, that's not matched with this edge here. Now it's probably because of the piece that I bought. There's a handful of makers of these floor pans, but this is what I'm gonna have to work with. And then I'm gonna have to cut this stuff out of here and make a little patch piece that goes inside here. When I get everything else done, I'll just cut that out and go from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and start getting this cut out, getting it prepped, and then we'll see where I end up. So I started drilling out the welds, and I used the grinder to try to clean up the surface, so I thought I could see and it's kind of hard to tell, but you can see the little indents where the spot welds are, and I wish I wouldn't have done that, because it made it harder to find those spots when I tried to clean off the metal, and it wasn't really needed. So there's mistake number one. But I was able to, I think I got them for the ones that I can get. This is all rusted in here, but I think I got these. I'm just going to draw a line across here and cut that off, so I don't need to go up any higher for those spot welds. I did want to say though, with the spot weld, drill out tool, you'll want to drill a little bit of a pilot hole, like just a little small drill bit like that, and then you can have a spot for this piece to fit inside as you're drilling. These bits here are pretty cheap. They're replaceable, and you will chew them up, and you probably will break a couple, but that's okay. Also, when you're going through, it's kind of an art to break through the first layer of metal, but not break through the second layer that's down below this piece here. Sometimes you'll see the panel pucker just a little bit when you break through the first layer. That's good. Sometimes you'll see a little bit of dust, rust or something like that. In my case, I had some rust underneath here, and I saw a little puff of rust come up through, so that told me that I got through this top layer, and that's what I'm trying to do. I don't want to chew up the bottom layer, the cab mount piece, as much as I can. I'd like to salvage that if I can. And so we'll get this cut out of here and then go from there. So now I got the line drawn along the edge here, and I just took an old intake manifold gasket that I had, and what I like about it is it's flexible, right? Because then I can put it in this corner here and still draw a relatively straight line. Again, not that it matters. I'm going to be able to cut, what I need out of here and do what I need to do. But anyways, it's just nice to have something to cut along, and so we'll get this cut out and then see what we're working with underneath. Aha! Alrighty, let's get this guy out of here. And now we can look at, so I got to clean up the edge of this stuff, but this is still, I mean, there's a lot of rust on here, but the big thing is that it's still pretty solid, and I just got to get all this dirt and grime and stuff just cleaned out of here. Yeah. Wow, there's a lot of dirt in here. Almost 60 years worth of dirt, probably, sitting in here. Awesome. Okay, so, and then I also struggled over here on this edge. I can't get a grinder in here very good. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna clean this up the best I can, and I'm gonna weld on top of it. I'll, spray some weld through primer on here, get it cleaned up. I'll do the same thing on here where I'm gonna spot weld to this cab mount, and then I need to clean the edge along here where I'm going to weld. I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut my new floor pan piece to fit this edge, but then I'm gonna cut it a little high along here, and I'll do what I was saying where I take that die grinder and I come along and I just make a slice, tack, slice, and so what I'll have is just like a 1-inch strip that'll take off of here and pull out from underneath the truck. And then when I come over here, I'm gonna have to, like I said, patch this up on this end, but let me get this cleaned up, and yeah, we're looking pretty good. Now that I got a lot of that cleaned up and ready to go, we can come over here to where we're gonna trace this piece onto the new floor pan. And what I just wanna do is just trace the piece that I cut out, even though I'm not gonna exactly cut that, but I wanna know what I'm working with so I don't cut too small, right? We don't wanna go that way. So if you lay in, you just kind of just tuck it in the corner as best you can. It's not gonna be perfect, and that doesn't matter. This is the only line that matters, because I'm gonna make the edge of this line up right where I cut that. So if you put everything in here, notice how this is short on this side. This whole edge was rusted, and I may have to cut this down just a little bit to get to fit in the truck. Well, we'll get to that part when we get there. But remember, I did cut that slice off of here that's still in the truck because I couldn't get a cutter in there. So we do know that there's something like that that's in there, but that's good. That's what we want. So after you put that in there and you trace it, this is what you're gonna end up with, is this line. It's hard to see. But I just took a punch that I have because it's a hard piece of steel, and I just use it to just scribe a line along the edge here of where the piece is that we took out. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it pretty close to this along here, but then I'm gonna come up high, kind of like what I've got this space here on the top of that, like I was saying earlier. And then I'll come back and I will cut this line out. And it's okay to maybe leave a little bit on this line so that we know that we don't cut too much, because then the problem is if you cut too much, you have too much of a gap for welding, and either you have to cut a little filler piece to fit in there. This thin stuff, it's not gonna be easy to bridge with your welds back and forth if the gap is too wide, so we're gonna sneak up on it. So this is gonna be a lot of fit and finish to get this thing to come out right. But let's go ahead and get that cut up and then see how we come out. So we'll do a little test fit, and the important thing is this piece needs to be smaller than the piece that I just cut, right? And this lines up pretty good. There's a little bit of an edge. I was thinking I probably should have had a little bit more of a gap so that, more of, not this quite thick of a piece that we're gonna cut off, but I'll tack that in, and then I'll slice a little more, and what we'll have is a sliver that comes off that's blue from the old cab, or the old floor pan. And then when we come around here, it's pretty close to 1-to-1 kind of a setup here, but okay. Let's test fit it in the cab. Alrighty, so try to drop this in here. Everything's looking good so far. And the exact placement, left, right, front, back, that kind of stuff is not as critical. We're not trying to make these bent pieces or formed pieces line up with anything. That there was a kind of a T shape into the full floor pan thing. We don't have to worry about that. But so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have to sit here and fiddle with it for a little bit and just get everything to line up where I need to do. I might have to cut just a little bit of this corner off up here. Reach from underneath and you can kind of push it around. And this edge right here is looking pretty good. We're going to push down. This whole piece is kind of a potato chip. You know, this not, yeah, it slopes right here, but then it actually kind of slopes down towards the door. And then right here, it actually slopes up. So it really is a big potato chip. So we're gonna be all right though. We'll clamp this down and we'll drill some holes in here for the spot welding. And then I've got some of those little, I don't know, they're called those little T-clamp things or whatever that you can use for sheet metal that kind of pinches it and sets that gap perfect. I might have to do that if I can't get this to line up right, but we'll see how it comes out. But cool. And then this seam up here, this is looking pretty good. This gap, I just have to scoot this thing up just a little bit, and I might just take a little more off this edge so that this back corner lines up better. But this is probably going to be maybe one of the most time-consuming parts. It's just fitting it in the corners and getting everything to line up right. All right, I think I got everything kind of fitted where I want it to be. It's kind of hard to see, but I drew some lines with a Sharpie of where the edge of the cab mount sheet metal was that I could put these holes through for some spot welds. Yeah, you can kind of see the Sharpie mark. And then I drilled some holes around here, and I drilled some larger holes because these are the screw holes for the door sill that goes on here. There's one here, one there, and so just to make sure I had plenty of room for that. I don't want to fill those up with weld, but I will fill these little guys with weld. And I got some primer underneath here, sprayed all ready to go. And then so I'm just gonna start tack a couple spots just to get the hold in place, and then I'm gonna start working on that and just kind of work my way through it and take my time. Because this metal is thin, I don't want to run a bead because it could get it to you know, warp and may cause some problems. And it may not be too bad for here. It's not a body panel piece like the outside of the truck where it's more critical, but there's no reason to be in a hurry. Just sneak up on it and I'll do the same thing along here and just get it done. So yeah, let me get it done. Actually, the welding, my welds are not fantastic, but they're good enough to work. So we're gonna just skip from this part to where it's welded. All right, guys, it's been a long day, but I went ahead and got that part welded in, and then I had to do a little patch piece here, got that all done. And my welds are not fantastic, so this is about as close as we're gonna get. So that's all you can see. But yeah, so plug the plug welds there, ran that bead around the edge. That piece that I was telling you that I cut off, that's this little guy right here. So as I was grinding along, I would cut a little bit and then tack weld it, cut a little bit more, and then this strip kind of just falls out from underneath the truck when you're done. So that worked out pretty good. Although I did get a little overzealous with my cutting here, so I had to kind of, the gap was just a little wider than I wanted, so I got a lot of extra weld in there. So we'll just stay right about here. Yeah, and then I think the next step is to do the driver's side, but this has been a long weekend. I'm gonna have to do that another weekend, but at least we got this side done, at least takes care of that. So hooray. So overall, I'm happy how it came out. You know, it's one of those things where you just gotta take your time, and this has been a long day chipping away at this. I'm by myself, and if I had somebody else to help me, of course, that'd be a lot faster. And then there's a part of it too, there's a little bit of a learning curve in terms of how the fitment and everything. Welding steel is the same, right? And then thin steel, you gotta be a little careful and stuff, but just making sure everything fits, going back and forth. This piece that I had to do right here, this little patch piece, back and forth, back and forth. I probably spent more time trimming that piece to make it fit than I did to trimming that, which is silly that it took that long. But yeah, this was a lot of work, but that's okay. That's part of the fun, and that's what I wanted to do with this truck, is start working on it and getting it chipped away on the stuff that I had to get done. And like I said, I gotta get that driver's side done. So that's probably going to be another weekend, but at least we got this video done, right? So, all right, guys, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you subscribe, I appreciate it because it helps my channel out, and we'll see you in the next one.